So welcome back to visual programming. I think as a recap of what we did last time, we have handled quite a bit about HTML. We have looked at how we can be able to create forms. We have looked at how to create paragraphs and how to create headings and how to use lists and images and anchor elements and how to use HTML semantics like divs and aside and section and the like. So literally, when it comes to publishing of the data, that is no longer an issue. We can be able to present as complex structure. That will depend on what we want to achieve as far as our pages are concerned. So moving on from today, I want us to start doing something very interesting, which is basically styling our pages so that they look nicer. You know, previously as we were creating our pages, we were just having some plain old text that looks a bit boring and here and there. But now today, I want to make sure that moving forward, we are able to style our documents properly to look something similar to what Google has over here. So this is basically just styling, and CSS is what does this. So we need to understand how that works. So there's still the guys trying to come in. I'm hoping they're not going to distract us once we start our mission. Okay, this is a problem. It's actually 15 minutes past. I think that should be the last group. I don't know how I can be able to give permissions to the class rep to allow you to admit. My account doesn't allow me to do that, but then again, I think it's okay. Let's just carry on. So I will open our folder that we have been working on previously. So I'll come to open folder. Did I call it what? Was it on documents or on the root of C? I think it's probably here. But nonetheless, I think it won't matter what it was all about because we are going to do something completely new. So I'll paste this side by side. And I want to believe that you can be able to see my screen. So not yet. So I need to share my screen. I'll need to share my screen. I think that's the last person I'll admit. So let's talk CSS or cascaded style sheets. So previously, as we have been looking at the applications that we have been doing, you have realized that most of the time, the things that you are creating are basically pages with no styling at all. So if I say took this file that you're working on, then I go live, you'll probably see that on this page, we basically just have some text and some images and some tables thrown around here and there, which really don't look nice. But of course, that's the first part of creating an application. So from today, we want to move forward and start applying styling to these pages so that they now start looking beautiful and functional, or maybe have visual hierarchy depending on how our design philosophy made the page look like. So it's more like when you're building a house, you build a structure, you will build the walls, you'll have placement for windows and other things, things like cabinetry and toilets and all these kinds of stuff. So that provision is not necessarily the same as the finishing, because I'll just say I want to have a toilet here, I want to have a door here, I want to have a window here, and I placed probably the window another. But now we want to actually give it color, paint it, and use all the beautiful things that you want to use in the house, if they're ceilings, if they are finishes. Basically, apply all that sort of website or a web application looks nicer. So welcome to CSS. So I'll introduce a file here that is going to be used for notes. So I've got a file here and I'll call it css.txt. So this is where we are going to write our notes and of course start with styling. So CSS, what is it? CSS in a nutshell stands for cascaded style sheets. Cascaded style sheets. Now, why cascade? Very important, and we need to understand this. So let me just admit these others who are here, and I hope that no more guys are going to come in again. So cascaded style sheet. So why cascade? Very important, because cascade means that the style take a hierarchy. There is 3 levels of styles. Actually, there are 4 levels of styles. So levels of styles in any document. First of all, we have one, the one that comes with the browser. So each browser has their own styling. So if I was like pick, say for example, I don't know if I have a form here. You have forms here. So I can close this form and I can close this, then run this form over here. So when I run that form, if you look at this form, the way it is styled, this is because I'm using Chrome. If you look at how the buttons are styled, this is because I'm using Chrome. If I open something like Edge, which is another browser here, and I took this element, I put it on Edge, let me put them side by side, you'll see that they are a bit different in terms of how they're displaying things. So I'll give you an example. Look at maybe how the date control is. If you look at this icon on the date on the date of birth, this icon is very different from this icon because Chrome and this is Edge and Chrome are having their own inbuilt styles as far as your inputs are concerned. So each and every browser will have their own input. They might look the same, but in most cases they might not necessarily look the same. As you can see, when it comes to Chrome here, the edges are a bit rounded on text area. When it comes to Edge, they are a bit straight. So this subtle changes, it means that each and every browser by default will apply their own styles when it comes to the content that you're presenting. So you don't get the same look and feel across multiple browsers. You'll probably get slightly different. Actually, when it comes to the drop-down list, if you look at this, you can see the background of whatever is highlighted is gray here. If I come to Chrome, you can see it's actually blue. So each and every browser will apply their styles. Hence, the reason why we are saying the styles are cascaded, which means the browser will apply its own style by default. Now, the second level of styling is on what we call the element itself, or what we call inbuilt styles, the ones that you apply to components. The ones that now you apply to a particular element. So maybe say I can come to this component over here and give it some specific styles. I'm going to show us how to do that. So that is going to be another level of style that you can apply. Then number 3, we can have styles that are applicable to elements on a page. So what happens is you'll include the styling on the page. Then that way, now everything on the page will be. Let me admit this too. So then you can apply styles to elements on your page, so which means every element on your page will have different styles that they are taking, and that's it. Then we have, of course, now what we call the global styles. So these ones are now where you can take your style and apply it across your entire website. Similar to, and this is the This is the most practical way. Once I come up with my styles, I come up with the fonts that I want to use, the color schemes I want to use in dark mode and light mode and all that, then I apply them simply across the entire application. So when it comes to cascaded style sheets, this is how it's going to go. First of all, it will apply the browser styles, then it checks if there are any inbuilt element styles, then to check if there are those ones on the page, and of course if there are global styles. Of course the hierarchy is slightly different because the element styles will be given first, the browser styles will be given last. Okay, so something like that. So element styles, the one that you apply on an element will be given priority, then the inbuilt one rather, then the ones that you apply on the page, then the global one, and of course if none is existing, then you apply the ones from the browser. So this is the specificity that CSS will use when it is applying those styles. So that's very, very important. Now that's hence the name cascaded. It will first of all check, do I have elements applied, do I have styles applied to an element? No. Do I have styles applied to a page? No. Do I have global styles? No. If none of them is existing, then it will take the browser, as in the case that I have over here. I've not applied any styles, so the browser will use its own inbuilt styles. So that's what's very, very important for us to understand on how CSS works. So now that we know what CSS is, now let's see how we can actually implement CSS within our page. And I'm going to look at these three. Of course, the last one doesn't make sense because it comes with the browser by default. Okay, I'll just leave it there. It comes with the browser by default, so we have nothing to do with the fourth one. These other three, however, we can have control over them. So what I want to do is I want to show us how to apply styling to this particular page over here, or maybe we can just create a new page with CSS. Then we just apply a few styles, because the essence today is learning about what CSS is, how to use it, and probably how the syntax of CSS is written, and probably how we can work with simple selectors and see how those ones work out. So probably maybe I can introduce a new file here, and I can call it css01.html, like that. I'll close this. Okay, the guys who are coming late, I don't know. Just try to follow instructions and come early. I don't like the idea that once I've started classes, when you want to join, I don't like that idea at all. So I'm not in the business of coming here over and over again just to look for who is trying to come in. Kindly just check the take the first 10 minutes that I've offered, join the class, then we move on from there. Don't let us not disrupt others. So as I was saying, let's do HTML and let's see how, first of all, we can use inline styles, which is the level with the specific details as far as CSS hierarchy is concerned. So I'm going to use Emmet to autofill my page, and I'm slightly going to reduce the font. I think that's too big. Yeah, I think that's more visible. I'm going to run this on the browser over here. So I'm not going to see anything else. So I'll simply say here CSS 101. So we're just getting started with CSS. So the title has changed. So what I'm going to do here is I want to take a paragraph and maybe I say lorem 30, something of that sort. And it's going to output some text over here for me. Now, if I wanted to apply styles, and by the styles are applied in two levels. We have what we call block level styles, and we have what we call inline styles. So anything that is something like a paragraph, anything that is an element that is a block level, paragraphs, divs, sections, headers, footers, and the likes, they are block level elements, which means when you apply a style, it applies across the entire content. So it doesn't apply only to specific elements. So it's the entire content, the line above it and line below it. So that's a block level element. So as you're applying styles, they'll either apply for block level element or they're going to be applicable for inline elements. So inline elements are, for example, if I can put maybe something like span over here, span here with a class of maybe say highlight, Then I take this text, which is sit more constitute, whatever that is. I think that's French. I don't even know what it means, something like that. Well, visually, you will not see any change because a span is basically an inline level element and will not create a line. If I change this one to a div instead, it will probably create a new line, as you can see. So whatever is here, it will create a new line. So that's why a div is a block level element, whereas a span is an inline level element. And of course, that's very important when we are doing our styling. You're going to decide what is block level, what is inline, and so forth and so forth. So let's see how CSS works. So for example, what I could do is I could come to this span over here and I put here a style property. Then I enclose the style here. So so what I'll put here is maybe say give it a color red, something like that. So you can see this one has been given the color red because I've put a span and I've given it a style of color red. So this is going to be very, very specific. So whatever I do, this will always apply because this is the lowest level and that is where we start cascading, moving upwards. All right. So that's an example of how we can be able to have what we call an element inbuilt styles or element styles that are applicable to specific elements like the one I have put over here. That's one way that you can be able to use style sheets. Now the other level you can level you can use for style sheet is ones that apply across the entire page. So when you want to use a style across the entire page or a specific page, what you're going to do is you're going to come to head over here and you'll define a style tag over here. Then let's say, for example, I want to make the font in this page, the entire page bigger. So I can simply say on the page or on the body of this page, I want the font size to be maybe say 1 rem, something like that. So when I do that and I refresh this, F5, 1 rem should be bigger. Let's say on the body, all the elements, that should work. Well, let me say for each paragraph, 1 rem is smaller. Let's do 2 rem. Okay, I think 1 rem was smaller. So body would have still applied. I think it's me who was. So you can see what it means is that when I put this, it means that everything inside this page, the styles that are applicable here will apply to everything on this page. So if I wanted to make the font bold, I can simply say font weight. Then maybe I can say something like bold. So you can see by default, all the font inside the body will be bold. So any style that I apply between head and I define that style, then it will apply across this entire page or document. And I might not necessarily target the body. I'll probably, maybe I can target other things, but of course you're going to look at selectors later on. For now, I'm only concerned with the level elements that you can use CSS for. Now, the other way you can apply styles on your document is using an external document. And this is where now you can apply consistent style across your entire application. So for global styles, you use what you call an external document. So you can use an external document where now that external document allows you to be able to apply styles across all the pages within your application. And that's very, very powerful. Let me give you a classic example. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to come to my folder. I'm going to my directory over here. I'm going to create a directory, click on outside, create a directory, call it CSS. Then inside CSS, I'll create a file and I'll call it styles.css. You can call it anything that you want. So when you say .css, it means that this is going to be a style sheet. All right. So you can apply all your styles here. Now, here you don't need to put the style keyword. Just go ahead and and apply all the styles that you want. Let's say, for example, I want to use serif font. This is an example of sans serif font. So I want to use a serif. Sans serif means it has serif means it has these. If you look at the L, there are these edges that come to it. If you look at this I, there are these edges that come to it. This is an example of serif fonts. We're going to look at fonts later on, so you're going to understand what's the difference between serif and sans serif. Let's say within my entire website, I want to use sans serif fonts that don't have serifs. So what I can do here is, inside my style sheet, I can declare inside the body of my page, I want to apply font family. Then I can give it sans serif fonts are something like this. So now you're not going to see any difference, but as you can see, I've already added a style file over here. So when I come to my CSS file, I can disable this body, or well, I could leave it, but I can disable it so that you'll be able to see the effect like that. Then I will link that file. So I'll link it as a CSS file like that. Then I'll go into a folder called CSS. Then I go to styles.css. Now, once I do that and I refresh, this is actually, I think this one is a serif font. Franklin Gothic, Arial. Yeah, that should be sans serif. Let me check if it has been applied. So usually you need to confirm on sources here. The CSS, you can see CSS has not been applied. So when I come here, I say that I go into a folder called CSS and I pick stars.css. Yeah, that should have been able to work. Just refresh this. Probably maybe, or it refused to apply style. Now, usually the challenge with having this extension is that sometimes it does not allow you to access some files. So what I'm going to do is I will just open this document directly inside a browser, then we see how that works out, because ideally that should be able to work. So when I open this inside the browser directly, that's not it. I was supposed to come here, come to where is this folder? Where is this folder? I thought that's the one that was open. Should be on, I think it's on the root of C. No, that's not it. I need to open the exact folder. Why am I having trouble with the location of this? Just a second. Well, okay. What I could do is yeah, that's it. So where are they? So they are under, okay, this is where it is. So this is where they are. So if I open here and I run this CSS 101, then I press Control F5, still it's not seeing that. What did I call CSS? It is styles. It is styles, not style. Sorry, it is styles.css. When I refresh that, so you can see now it has actually applied the non-sans serif font. I even think this one should apply now. Oh, I stopped it. Sorry. I was referring here. You can see it has actually applied. I was using the wrong file name to refer to the CSS file. But as you can see, once I refer to this file, then it means that all the styles that are in this file are going to apply across my application. Let me give you a classic example. Let me say I want to change all the fonts to green, for example. So I can come here and I say color. Color is what you use for changing font, and I can say something like blue. So you'll see that everything changes to blue because all the styles are now attached to this file, and this file is attached to this document. And even if I had another document, like maybe say I create CSS002 here, something like new file here, and I'll say CSS02.html. Then I simply put emit here, and I say this is CSS002, and maybe instead of giving paragraphs, I give an ordered list with I give an unordered list with 5 list elements like that. Then I simply say 1 and 2 and 3 and okay, this should be 5, this should be 4. Missed that a bit. 4 and 5, something of that sort. And I can say this is text 1, text 2, text 3, text 1. This is text 2, text 3. Okay, text 3, text 4 and text 5, and then finally text 5, text 5 like that. So if I was to do this, as you can see, I have not attached the CSS file, but I can come and link it here. I'll simply say link this CSS file, and it should be a folder called CSS, then it's styles.css, something like that. So if I was to stop this and this, then stop this, then run now this new page, so that we have this new page over here, you'll see everything is in blue text and it is an sans-serif font by design. So that's the beauty of working with external CSS file, and that's what makes it now your global styling. So if I come to global styling over here, then using an external file actually gives me that particular effect. Now, I hope that is clear. So those are the levels of CSS that are there, and that's how it cascades. It starts with the styles that are applied to a particular element, then it goes to the ones that are on the page, then it goes to the ones that you attach on an external document, and of course, if none of them is applicable, then it takes the browser defaults. Okay, so hence the name cascaded style sheets. So it will cascade in that particular order, and I think that should be very clear on how that works out. Any question? No question. Yeah, that's very important because for demo purposes, I'll probably use page level design, page level styles, but that is just the general idea. You can apply it at any level that you want. You can apply it on the element, on the page, or across a different CSS file that is going to be used across the entire application that you are developing. All right. Okay, so now let's look at CSS selectors. So CSS selectors. Now, when it comes to CSS selectors, we have 5 types of selectors in general. And we are going to learn them one by one. Now, I want you to pay attention to these selectors because the same selectors you're using for CSS will become very, very handy when we are using JavaScript. If you decide to use document.query selector, the same selectors that you're using for CSS are going to be applicable in JavaScript. So once you master how to do the selectors in CSS, then you're 90% done when it comes to using selectors in JavaScript also, which is a bonus when it comes to making our application. So, CSS selectors. Now, the first kind of selectors, we call them simple selectors. We call them simple selectors. And these simple selectors are important because they make it very, very easy for us to be able to select different elements within our page. They are made up of, the first one is what we call element selector. element. So you can select based on elements. So let me give you a classic example. Let's create a new page, call it css3.html. Then let's create some selectors over here. Selectors. So simple selectors is you have in your page something like let me say I have heading 1 and I'll say welcome to Took. Then probably I have a paragraph that describes Took. So I'll say paragraph, then I'll say Lorem 50. So I want to describe Took. Right? Now after I describe Took, I can give a list of departments. So I'll say give a UL and give li of say 3 departments. So I have department of computer technology. Then I also have department of information technology. Then I also have department of media and graphics. Something like that. Then of course down here I could have maybe something like an image or buttons or a form. You get the idea. So I have different elements altogether. So when I'm talking about an element selector, I'm talking about selecting the different elements I have within my page. So I'll discard that and I'll stop that. Then I'll run this new page over here so that you can be able to see how we can be able to use those selectors. So when I come to this page, you can see there's no styling that has been applied here. So if I wanted to center everything on the page, what I would have done here is to come to the head here, and I'll use the head selectors. Like I'll put a style over here. I'll pick my body and I'll simply say text align center. That should align everything in the center, as you can be able to see automatically. So this body is what we are referring to as an element selector. I can pick the body. That is one thing that I can be able to do. Maybe I want to align the unordered list on the left by default. So I can come here and say for any unordered list, then say text align left. So you can see, in as much as everything aligns at the center, because I've said UL, align it on the left, it'll come and pick anything that is UL with its content and align it on the left. And I can go on and on. I can maybe say, I want maybe this paragraph to have maybe say some, maybe say I want this paragraph to have some yellow. So I can come and say here, get me the paragraph there and make the background, then maybe say yellow, something like that. So you can see it has a yellow background. So in short, you can pick elements based, you can select a content based on elements. So I've picked body, which is everything from here all the way to here. So everything on the inside will have this style applied, followed by anything that is a UL. So anything from here to here, which is all this text, will have this style, which is text align left. Then I have this other one which says paragraph. So it's going to look for paragraph. And then of course, every paragraph will have a yellow background. So it means that even if I came here and put another paragraph and simply say Lorem 10, so if I add another paragraph, you'll still see that that paragraph, it is still centered and it has its background as yellow, because we have told it anything that is a paragraph have a background of yellow, and everything that is inside the body, center it. So that's how cascaded style sheets work. That is how element selectors work. That's our first simple selector. Okay. Now, the other simple selectors that we have what we call class selectors. Class selectors. So class is where I want to target things that have that belong to the same class. I want to group things together and I want to apply the same style to those things. Let's say, for example, if I come to my file over here and I say I want this heading to have a class of highlight. Okay, highlight, right? And I also want this other paragraph to have a class of highlight. Highlight like that, sorry. So I have two classes. This one has highlight and this one also has highlight. So I want to apply that class to this and I also want to apply that class to this. So I want the background to be that color. I probably want the font to be smaller, or maybe I want it to appear in certain case and I want maybe for them to be red in color, for example, something of the sort. So what I would do is I'll come to my styles over here and styles rather, where is it? It's here. No, not that. Sorry, I was doing an inline style. So I'll come to my style inside here. Then I'll say dot. Dot means pick anything with a class of. So I'll say dot highlight. So dot highlight means pick anything with a class of highlight. Then what styles do I want to apply to them? First of all, let me say I want the font size to be 1.5 rems. So it's just slightly bigger than average font. So 1.5 rem. So you will see that this and this have the same font size. So maybe I want to remove the boldness. So I'll simply say font weight and I'll simply say maybe 100. So I want them to be light. So you can see this one is now light and this one is now light. Maybe say I want to give them a color red. So I'll simply say color red, something like that. So you can see all of them have a color red, and maybe I want to remove the background. So I can simply say background transparent. Now, when you want to apply more than one style, you simply use a semicolon. Every time you have defined your style, you use a semicolon. So I can simply say here, background transparent. So you'll see now they have the exact same style because they are on the highlight. Remember, on the paragraph, this is a paragraph, so all paragraphs should have a background of yellow. Everything on the body should be centered. But now anything that is given a highlight class should take these styles. So CSS is going to cascade them in that particular order. So that is a class selector. So you can apply things that you want to group together. They could be buttons, they could be anchor elements, they could be images, they could be aside elements, they could be a table. So you can give them a class, then you apply styles to that class, and everything across your website would be able to take that particular style that you have established. Okay? Right, so that is class selector. Now, the other thing we need to do is to use what we call an ID selector. So for ID selectors, we'll use a hash. IDs usually are applicable to specific things. So maybe say I want this one to have an ID of important. This one is important or crucial. This one is crucial. So IDs are going to be unique. So I want to target something that's very specific. Now remember, I can add another paragraph here and I say lorem 30. So I have another paragraph here. So you can see I have this paragraph here which is crucial, this one over here, and I also have this other paragraph. So, well, more or less they are paragraphs, but I might want to apply very specific styles to this first paragraph that don't apply to this other paragraph. So what I could do here, because I've given it an ID, I can access it with its own ID. So I'll come to my styles up here and I'll simply say hash, because hash is what is used to select ID. Then I'll say crucial like that. Then I could simply say background is green. I don't like using background color, but you can use background color. I'll say background is maybe light green. or light coral, something like that. So you can see this one, in as much as it's a paragraph, because I'm targeting it based on its ID, then its background is going to be a different color from the rest of the paragraph. Let me just add another paragraph here so that I just demonstrate for you that that actually works. So I'll go to the end. Actually, I can close this. Then let me do another paragraph, lorem 50. So you can see, sorry, I need to put a paragraph. I need to put a paragraph and I put lorem 50. So you can see I have this paragraph and this paragraph and this paragraph, but this one, because I've said it's crucial, it's given different styles from the other ones because I'm targeting it based on its ID. It has an ID which uniquely identifies it, and that way then it's going to get a completely different styles from the rest of the elements. Are we to get up to that point? Are we together up to that point? Okay, I think silence would mean we are good. Remember, I have said once you have learned how to use these selectors in CSS, the same thing would happen when it comes to JavaScript, and makes it very, very easy for you to target various elements within your page or within your document. All right. So let's look at how you can be able to group multiple selectors together. They are still simple selectors, but maybe say, let's say I have 3 different sections. So let me say I have here section 1. So I'll put section and I'll put 3 of them. And the first section will be about courses. Then I'll do lorem 30. The next section will be about admissions, and I'll still do lorem 30. But then the text will not always be the same. The text will not always be the same. Then I have another section here, and say for this section, I want to be able to have maybe say certificates, and I'll give lorem another 30. The wordings might not be the same because it just picks random words and it sets them together. Now you can see everything is centered, but now I want to create each section, and I want each section to have a background color and some padding so that I'm able to see where they are. So what I could do here, I can have this section. Well, let me call that section. Let me call this one div, and div, and let me call this paragraph. Not paragraph, but maybe say, let me say the section div. Let me have this as a span. I have a section, I have a div, and I have a span. Visually, you're not going to see any difference. Visually, you're not going to see any difference. But let's say, for example, I want to apply styles to section, div, and span. So I'll come here to my section because that is an element. And on the section, I'll simply say margin, maybe say of 1 pixel all round. I want to separate it from the rest. Well, 1 pixel is too small, but let me work something like 5 pixels. So if you observe, now there is some space. Let me put 10. Now you can see between the first one and the second one, there is some white space that I've created inside here. There's some white space. Okay, maybe let me make it 20. It will be much more visible. So you can see the top I have some margin and the bottom I have some margin. Then let me put a border so that you're able to see. So border, don't worry about these styles for now. 1 pixel solid. Let me give it a gray color. So now you can see it has a border. Well, I can give it a padding of 20 pixels. in all directions, just to squeeze it on the inside, something like that. So you can see I've applied that style to this particular section. Let me say I want to apply the same styles also for the div. So I'll pick this div and I'll apply the same styles. Okay, like that. And I will pick my span and apply the same styles, something like that. Now the only problem with span is that that will not work well. So let me just call it paragraph, because I'm targeting block level elements. I know even the ones at the top will apply, but you can see now I have these three ones that are at the bottom. These are the ones that I was targeting. Forget about the two at the top. Actually, I can, I just leave them. So the three at the bottom is what I'm targeting. Now, what if you can see I've applied the same style for all of them? So what if I wanted to, because these things have the same styles, it's not practical for me to put section, div, and paragraph differently because the styles are exactly the same. So what I need to do is just to separate them with commas like this. So I'll put div here, then I'll put paragraph there, then I can remove these others. And you'll probably see nothing has changed on my page because section, div, and paragraph, all of them have the same style. So it will take anything that's a section, apply the styles, anything that's a div, apply the styles, and anything that's a paragraph, also apply the styles. So that grouping is very, very important when it comes to styling our documents. So that's another way that you can use simple selectors, but of course you can use multiple selectors to apply the same styles. Well, somebody might argue, what if I want a different color for all of them? So if I want a different color for all of them, so the color is the only thing that's going to be different. So I'll remove this. Then I'll come and say now, section, give a border. Now apply the style. So, sorry. Just a second. Sorry. So for section, I just remove this other styles because I've applied them on the top. Then I'm only left with the style. So you can see now I've applied gray on it. Now, if I want the other one to be red, I'll take div. Then I'll give it a border of red. So what I'm trying to say is there are those styles that are going to be the same. So the ones that are the same, you leave them. The ones that are going to be different is what you apply separately. So again, I'll come down here and I'll say, sorry, now for paragraph, I want the border to be green. So you can see, I have applied the same border to them. The only difference is that now this one is green and I can maybe say change the background to transparent so it doesn't look bad. Yes, something like that. So if I wanted to make the border thicker, so maybe I can come and say border size is thicker, but we're going to look at those later on. What I was trying to insist on is you can be able to actually use similar styles for different elements. Then the ones that we want to be very specific, then you can apply those different styles to the components that you want to change, that you want to be different. So that's how CSS works. And you can see this is very powerful because now I don't need to focus on styling these things one by one, but rather I can now do what we call simple selectors. And based on the selectors, I can be able to target different components and be able to work on different elements. Now, because this style is going to apply to all the paragraphs, as you can see, if I want only this paragraph, the one that is down here, to have the styles, what I can do is I can give this paragraph an ID, and I'll call it crucial. Okay, not crucial, but I can give it a class. Let me say body. I can call it body paragraph. Then here, because I'm targeting, I can target the body directly, but I can come here and say paragraph with a class of body paragraph. So it will pick specifically the one that is below only. So you can see this one is the only one that has the styles applied. Any other paragraph at the top does not have that background, that border applied to it. Okay, and that's very, very important. So all the paragraphs, of course, will have a margin of 20 and a padding of 20 pixels. Margin is between the element and the suggested element. Padding is between the content and the element. You're going to look at that when installing other things later on. For now, I was only focused on how to do simple selectors. Now that we have seen how that happens, let's see the syntax of CSS. So the syntax of CSS, which is what I should have started with, is very simple. You have open close bracket. Of course, you have your selector on the outside. Let me just put them on one line. You have your selector on the outside. You have your selector on the outside. Then you have your declarations on the inside. So you have declaration. So there's one declaration 1, semicolon, declaration 2, and so on and so on. You can put as many as possible. If you look at my CSS over here, you can see in some places I have 2, in some places I have 3, in some places I have 4, in some places I have 1. So I have the selector, which is here, and the selector can be a simple selector with element, class, or ID, or you can actually use multiple elements together separated by commas, or you can use a simply slightly complex selector where I'm picking an element with a specific class, something of the sort. Then that is exactly what the selector is all about. Then the declarations are what you have after the selector, something like this. So the declaration has what we call the property and value. So declaration is made up of property and value. So one declaration is made up of a property and value. So I'll just type it here. Declaration has 2 parts, property, full colon, value. Then you separate with a comma. So each and every declaration will have property and value separated by a semicolon. Another declaration will have property and value separated with a semicolon, and so forth and so forth. So this is the syntax of writing CSS. I think I've demonstrated that clearly. I have my selector, then I have my declaration. So selector is body, declaration, this is the declaration, this is the property text. I'm saying align everything at the center. When I come here, this is my selector. This is declaration number 1, declaration number 2, declaration number 3, and declaration number 4. So each declaration you can see has a property, full column, a value separated by a semicolon. And that is how we write CSS from top all the way to the bottom. Okay? Any question on simple selectors? That's very important, right? Any question? Okay, somebody's trying to say something on the chat. Let me see that. So, Gideon, you're asking, what if you want paragraph 3 to be crucial? Paragraph 3, so I have paragraph number 1, paragraph number 2, paragraph number 3. Now, remember, for now, I'm talking about simple selectors. We have what we call combinator selectors, and we also have pseudo selectors and pseudo element selectors and attribute selectors. We're going to look at them individually. Then probably after that, I think your question will have been answered, because what you are asking is actually how the child selector works. I want to pick the third child, for example. That is what we are referring to as a combinator selector, which is what you're going to look at in our next class. All right? I don't want to go too fast so that now you're not able to understand what's going on. So I will take step by step, because learning the selectors and how they work is actually very, very critical, both for CSS and for JavaScript. So if you are able to understand them, and by the way, even in terms of application, you realize that the same way we implement CSS, that is either at form level at page level, at component level, or globally, is the exact same way you're going to implement JavaScript, even though there are two different ecosystems altogether, but those principles are going to replicate or resonate across board. Okay? So I have some tasks for you over here, which I want you to do just to understand, to jog. You be able to see that you've understood actually how this works out. Because moving forward, I'm just going to be assuming you know how to do simple selectors. Then I'm going to now use the simple selectors and use now what we call the combinator selectors. So from the simple selector, I want to move to combinator selectors. So I'm going to use the simple selectors and apply a few things to it. Then you see how that works out. Then from there, we'll do pseudo class selectors. Then from there, we do pseudo element selector. Then we do attribute selectors. So one thing is going to be building on top of the next. So that's why I want you to be able to understand this very, very clearly and ask as many questions as possible so that now moving forward, when I'm making assumptions that are realistic, not out of the blues, assuming that everybody understood what we were talking about. All right. So for now, we have talked about CSS. What it is. We talked about the 4 levels of CSS. Of course, the browser part is not important because that is not in our control. The other 3 are in our control. That is the element styling, element inline styling. We have page level styling, and we have global styling. And we have seen how we can use the different styles to the different levels to style different elements. Then we have also looked at what we call simple selectors. And for simple selectors, we have talked about element selectors. We have talked about class selectors. We have talked about ID selectors, and we have talked about grouping, where we can be able to, for the things that you want to have similar styles, we can group them together. And we also talked about using a combination of element, class, ID, and all that, where I can pick a paragraph of class this, then I give it certain styles and so forth and so forth. That is very, very important for us to understand how that works out. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to give you a task over here, and I'm going to expect you to complete this particular task so that you're able to reinforce exactly what we have done. So the task will be as follows. So it's a simple task with 3 entries. And on the entries, I'm basically looking at this. I want you, instead I need to complete the following step. I want you to use an element selector to select all paragraph elements and color them to a dim gray. Then I want you to use a class selector to set a highlight background color to yellow, and then also use an ID selector to set an intro font size to 20 pixels. So this is the task that I want you to complete, just to be able to remember to see exactly what has been achieved. So I will put this in the task list so that now you can be able to complete it, and then we'll be able to move forward with that. So this is the task that's going to be. So we have done ID selector. We've also done grouping selector. And then we've also looked at combined element class selector. So you can use class, you can use ID, you can use even multiple elements and so forth and so forth. So that was the whole point. So your task is this. So that's going to be your task for this class. I'll let you try that out. In case of any questions, you will let me know. Now, remember, this thing is all about practice. You need to practice so that you understand how everything works. So once that is in place, then everything else should be able to fall right in place, okay? Any question up to that point? And I hope I'm not too fast. Somebody last time said I was a bit too fast. I hope I'm not too fast this time around. Right? Question or comment?
Excuse me, sir.
Go ahead, Henry.
I was requesting if you could send the notes.
Or these notes that I've written here.
If you have PDFs, you can send because the class also wants notes.
All right. All right, I'll try my level best to do that. Not a problem. Anything else? I can send them. Okay, let me see. I don't know if I should send them as an entire list or I send them bit by bit based on what we cover in class. What's your preference?
Just send everything. Like.
All right, no problem. I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other? James says I was a bit too fast. I think I tried to be as slow as possible and explain how that works. Again, I have recorded this so you can be able to look at it at your pace, so that now whatever it is that you feel I was too fast on, you can play it at half the speed, or you can also rewind it, play it back and forth. It will basically be now your own. You can learn it at your own pace. In short, the whole point is I wanted to be able to demonstrate for you how all these things work together. Because ideally, as you're writing a program, this is what we are supposed to be doing, right? Okay, James, you're welcome. Anybody else? All right. So if there's no question, I'll stop the recording. I'll share the video with the class rep with the files that we have modified. Then you can be able to follow along with what I was doing. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
All right. So you can do the task for the remaining time as you're familiarizing yourself. Of course, as I said, the more you submit your task, the better it is for you. So I just want to be able to see that you at least have done the classwork, so that when I'm giving you a cut, at least I know that I'm giving people who are attending classes cuts, and I can be able to award them marks appropriately. Okay. All right. So I'll stop that. Then we'll meet again. I don't know when's next. I think it's probably tomorrow. Is it? Is that so? I think the next class is. I think the next class is tomorrow, or is it on Thursday?
Tomorrow. We don't have a class tomorrow.
When is the next class? Because I have another class at 4, which is not you guys. I thought it was changed.
And I don't know. I've not been informed about the change of class, but I know your classes are usually on Tuesday from 2 to 6, and finding time to fit another class is almost impossible.
Oh, why is that? The room is full because I have another class at 4, so it's impossible for me to have you from 2 to 6 because there's another class from 4 to 6, which is I think the same diploma, but now that's a different class.
Yeah.
Unless now what we do is, but now I can't combine it because they are a class behind. Unless I try to figure out how to, but then again, I don't know what is their arrangement between 2 and 4. So I can't also enforce on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me talk to Luke and see what can be done. I had spoken to him and I had advised him on the same because he had put me twice and that was going to be practical. And it's also important for us to be able to accommodate one another. So anyway, let me just talk to Luke, then I'll see if I can find somebody we can exchange a class with. Okay?
Okay.
Enjoy your afternoon. We'll meet again. I'll advise the class rep. Once I talk to Mr. Luke, then we can see how to move forward.
Okay.
James, you're saying partner on the assignment. I think the assignment is very clear. I just want you to create a HTML page, and then inside your code editor, you want to complete the following steps. Use an element selector to set all paragraph elements to color dim gray. I also want you to use a class selector to set something with a highlight background to color yellow. Then I want you to use an ID selector to set intro font size to 20 or any other style that you might apply. We have not looked at styles in detail. We're going to look at a lot of styles in terms of fonts, in terms of spacing, in terms of borders, and so many other things. So for now, I was focused on the selectors and how to use them, okay? So that's what the assignment is all about. Okay. Awesome. Not a problem. So I think we take a break at that. You can try that out. Then we see where that ends. If you get stuck, as I said, you can reach me out on WhatsApp or email. I'll be able to see how to assist you moving forward with the assignment that you're stuck with. All right? Or with the question that you're stuck with. Okay, so let's meet again next time. Let me organize how the other class is going to fare. And again, I've seen today, guys, I've tried at least by 1:10, most of us were around. So it's a good thing because we were able to at least start early enough so that now, and I mean, the disruptions were also fewer. So I commend you for that and keep it up. Next time, let's try to make that better. Okay. All right. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We'll meet again. I'll advise the class rep on when we're going to meet again after I talk to Mr. Luke and see what slots can be made available or what can be extended between this class and the next.